Senator Hanson. Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President. As a servant to the people of Queensland and Australia, I speak of my concerns tonight for the security of all Australians and to acknowledge the bravery of some very special, hard-working Australians. I recently had the good fortune to meet some outstanding people and would like to single out these people for a special tribute tonight for their courage. Yes, courage, Madam Acting Deputy President. These people were abandoned, deserted by their employers, deserted by the big union and deserted by government. I'm referring to the brave black coal miners in the Hunter Valley from Mount Arthur Mine, who were denied their entitlements by both their employer, Chandler McLeod, and by the mine operator, BHP. Yes, BHP, the big Australian who disregards and discards everyday Australians and leaves them underpaid, broken and abandoned. BHP and Chandler McLeod have been exploiting these miners as casuals. Even though these casuals work side by side with the permanent workforce, yet for years were underpaid 40% underpaid, yet on the same roster projected 2 years into the future as permanents. Same skills, same jobs as permanents, same responsibilities, 40% less pay. These casual miners have been risking injury or death without access to decent protection like proper industry workers' compensation. The things that we, everyday Australians, rely on our employer and on government. But where was the government when these people needed help? The government organisations in New South Wales entrusted with protecting these people let them down too. Now every Australian should be worried because we could be next. As a mining executive myself, Madam Acting Deputy President, I worked with miners and coal union delegates, and I'm proud to have done so, to establish a pioneering award that set new standards for our industry and that led to performance and safety benchmarks for our entire Australian coal mining industry. These initiatives focused on ensuring miners could return home intact to be with their families after every shift, and I understand that good safety systems and practices also improve productive capacity and reduce costs. They make sense. Today, I'm appreciating real unsung heroes, people who did not give in, who were brave enough to not take no for an answer. People like Mr. Simon Turner, who despite his massive injuries did not give up. He's a real champion, Madam Acting Deputy President. Simon and many other everyday Australians like him were employed by Chandler McLeod under substandard pay and conditions, including no leave, no penalty rates, no accident cover, no shift allowance, no coal workers' compensation, no long service leave and possibly cut superannuation. Yet their mates, the full-time BHP production workers they worked beside, did, rightly so, get these benefits. When these people, these casuals, took their concerns to BHP, the big Australian not only showed these workers the door, BHP covered the whole thing up, including their injuries and accidents. BHP violated the law in not reporting injuries and accidents. When these people took their concerns to their employer, labour hire firm Chandler McLeod, it was the same. Chandler McLeod discards and disregards their people, everyday Australians. Chandler McLeod's website, Madam Acting Deputy President, says that they care about safety and says that overlooking workplace safety can result in high costs, both social and financial, and it could affect a company's reputation. Yet who can trust Chandler McLeod's empty words after this misbehaviour, abuses and cover-ups? When Chandler McLeod didn't help these honest workers, the workers took their concerns to the Fair Work Commission and to the Coal Long Service Leave Authority. Again, these people were brushed aside and ignored. Fair Work and the Coal Long Service Leave Authority were just like a mirror, Madam Acting Deputy President. Fair Work said they would look into it, but nothing came back to protect these workers. Fair Work signed off on their enterprise agreement without checking whether they could even employ casual miners under the award. They cannot. And it gets worse. There are many hundreds of other similar workplace agreements that the CFMMEU and Chandler McLeod set up to exploit casual workers, and many more workers could have similar claims. So watch this space. These employers and the union must have known what they were doing was wrong and that it was also morally wrong. Their employer and the union ignored the industry award. But to rub salt into the wounds of these miners, Fair Work ignored their calls for help too. There is a complex web of companies in this matter. Coal Mines Insurance and Coal Mine Services, who operate in the Hunter Valley, are both owned 50-50 by the CFMMEU and the New South Wales Minerals Council, the employer entity. And Auscol Super are also owned by some of these parties. So whichever way they turned, these people had no chance. They were dealing with government-legislated monopolies. The CFMMEU ignored the rights of these honest workers from beginning to end. They signed off on a substandard employment agreement. The CFMMEU broke the trust of these workers and discarded them. When these workers took their concerns to the local federal MP, a Labor MP of Parliament, Joel Fitzgibbon, they were shown the door again 6 times, as did the ALP state MP and Liberal state ministers. How hard must it have been for these champions to keep going? But then, thanks to meeting our One Nation representative, Stuart Bonds, an experienced and trusted figure in the Hunter Valley community, Simon and injured people like him got a voice at last. That trust that Simon Turner put in Stuart Bonds has been repaid, and now we are seeing the government and the union respond. Maybe. At last, Madam Acting Deputy President, it has been a long journey and it could not come soon enough for these brave people. Now we need action and not words from BHP, Chandler McLeod and the CFMEU, and I call on them to respond. Stuart Bonds, who is a CFMMEU member himself, brought this matter to me, and then I drew it to the attention of this House, to the Federal Attorney General's Department and to New South Wales Senator Maurice Payne. One Nation is always concerned for everyday people, workers, farmers, small business owners, the people that the Liberal, Labor and National parties ignore. The big employers like BHP and Chandler McLeod are exploiting and dumping. For the abused Hunter Valley black coal miners, we now want what every Australian expects and is entitled to. That is, to ensure that all miners who have been scammed and denied their legal and moral entitlements receive a fair go. I know that decent Australians will want to see these rogue organisations held accountable for their abuses before it happens to them. We applaud these Hunter Valley casual black coal miners who were left out in the cold by their big multinational employer and big union. Alone and without support, these people had to prepare their case, and they were able to prove correctly to me that the Black Coal Ward does not have provisions for casual employment in production and engineering roles. Madam Acting Deputy President, I have devoted 2 weeks to understanding the many and varied breaches of the law and breaches of industry standards perpetrated by these rogue organisations no longer worthy of our trust. I'm informed that some parties appear to have committed outright fraud against these miners. That is why I recently made serious claims in Senate estimates hearings and publicly in the media. Stuart Bonds and I will do whatever is necessary to achieve our aims in seeking justice for the miners robbed of their livelihood. Some miners have been crippled physically, emotionally, mentally, and until not long ago, nobody cared. I have publicly called for action against the employer, BHP, and Chandler McLeod, the mine operators, BHP, the union, and possibly against members of Parliament, state government inspectors and agencies, and the New South Wales Minerals Council. Madam Acting Deputy President, I speak of the misbehaviour of the parties who have colluded to let these honest workers down. I refer in this collusion to BHP, Chandler McLeod and the CFMMEU, who ensured these people had nowhere to go and nobody to listen to their complaints. These bodies, these organisations, knew that these people were casuals. In fact, they had been employed for years by the company, yet nobody cared. Shame on these businesses, these organisations, for what they did to these workers. Shame on the CFMMEU for collecting the cash and not supporting them. The facts speak for themselves, Madam Acting Deputy President. These people went to BHP, who covered up their injuries and incidents. They went to Chandler McLeod, who refused to accept the claims for decent pay and conditions and a fair go. They went and were exploiting these people. They went to Fair Work and were ignored. They went to the CFMMEU and were abandoned, discarded, tossed out. They went to the local ALP MPs and were shown the door. The government agencies did nothing to help, and the Liberal state ministers these people approached did the same. In closing, Madam Acting Deputy President, I have recently met some very, very brave people who stood up for a fair go against the powerful, and I pay tribute to Simon Turner and to others who are suffering, and to Stuart Bonds. We will do whatever we can to ensure justice for these people, justice for all casuals in the Hunter Valley, and to make sure BHP, Chandler McLeod and the CFMMEU are held accountable and made to pay for their collusion, hurting so many people.